Hi everyone, I'm Bill Graham. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking some more about Barry Harris's 6th Diminished system. Now so far, every time we've talked about 6th Diminished, we've looked at the chords voiced in four-way close, or close position. Today we're going to open those voicings up and take a look at some of the same things in drop 2. Let's get right to it. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is understand what a drop 2 voicing is. So a close position voicing is where we voice each note in the chord as close as we can to the last note in the chord without skipping over any chord tones. So if we take an F6, for example, the notes in F6 are F, which is the root, A, which is the third, C, which is the fifth, and D, which is the sixth. So each chord tone is voiced directly after the previous chord tone without skipping any notes. That's why we call this close position. Now, drop 2 is the first sort of open voicing that we tend to learn. And the way we get a drop 2 chord, traditionally at least, the way we explain it, is that we take the second note from the top. So in this case, that's going to be C, and we're going to drop that note down an octave. So this is our close position chord. And now here it is played as a drop 2 chord. We can do the exact same thing with each inversion of the chord. So let's go up to our first inversion, F6. So now the second note from the top is D. So we're going to take that out of the chord and drop it down an octave. Next inversion, the second note from the top is F. So let's take that out of the chord, drop it down an octave. And then the last inversion, the second note from the top is A. So we'll take that out and drop it down an octave. So here are our 4 inversions of F6 in drop 2. We can also look at these drop 2 voicings from the bottom up. One way would be to think about the distribution of chord tones. So we're going to start with a chord tone, and in close position we would have played the next chord tone next. But in drop 2, we're going to, after that first chord tone, we're going to skip a chord tone, and then put the next one, and then we're going to play the next chord tone after that, but we're going to skip one then, and then play the next chord tone above that. So that's chord tone, skip, chord tone, skip, chord tone. Let's do that from each inversion. So if we come up to the third of the chord, next chord tone is the fifth, we're going to skip that, play the sixth. Next chord tone is the root, we're going to play that. Next chord tone is the third, we're going to skip that and play the fifth. Okay, if we started from the fifth, next chord tone is the sixth, so we're going to skip that, then put the root, the third, then we're going to skip the fifth and play the sixth. And then finally, from the sixth, next chord tone is the root, we're going to skip that, play the third, then play the fifth, skip the sixth, and play the root. Another way to think about these chords from the bottom up would be to just take a close position chord and take the second note from the bottom and move it up an octave. So a root position F6, the second note from the bottom is A. We're going to move that A up an octave, and now we've got our drop 2. From first inversion, let's take the second note from the bottom, move it up. From second inversion, we'll take the second note from the bottom, move it up, and then from third inversion, we'll take the second note from the bottom and move it up. Another way to look at these is as what Barry calls short chords and long chords. Short chords are in close position, and long chords are in drop 2. The way that Barry shows us to convert a short chord to its long chord equivalent is by exchanging the top and bottom voices. So in this F6 chord, the bottom note is F, and the top note is D. So we want to switch that. We're going to make the bottom note D and the top note F, right? And the other two voices are going to stay put. So and then from first inversion, the top note is F and the bottom note is A. So let's exchange those. We want the top note to be A and the bottom note to be F. And then from second inversion, the top note is A and the bottom note is C. So let's exchange those and have the bottom note be A and the top note be C. And then finally, our top note is C and bottom note is D. So let's exchange those. Have our bottom note be C and our top note be D. Okay? Short chord, long chord. Short chord, long chord. Short chord, long chord. Short chord, long chord. Okay. Of course, for 6th diminished, we also need the diminished. So on F6, the related diminished is E diminished 7. So let's take a look at E diminished 7 and find the drop 2 voicings in all the same ways we found the drop 2s for F6. So our first way is to drop the second voice from the top down an octave. So E diminished, second voice from the top is B flat. Drop it down. Let's go up to the next inversion. Second voice from the top is D flat. We'll drop that down. Next inversion, second voice from the top is E. Drop it down. And then finally, next inversion, our second voice from the top is G. So we'll drop that down. And then we're back to where we started, just up an octave. So if we play those voicings. We can, of course, get all those same voicings by thinking about the distribution. So we're going to play a chord tone, skip one, play one, skip one, play one. Or starting from the third, skip a chord tone, play one, skip one, play one. Or starting from the fifth, skip a chord tone, play one, skip one, play one. Or starting from the seventh, play a chord tone, skip one, play one, skip one, play one. We can also think about those chords by taking the second note from the bottom of a close position chord and moving it up an octave. So here we're going to take the G and move it up. Or from the next inversion, second note from the bottom is B flat, so we'll move that up. Next inversion, second note from the bottom is D flat, so we'll move that up. And in the next inversion, second note from the bottom is E, so we'll move that up. Lastly, let's look at them as short chords and long chords. So here's our first short chord. Bottom note is E, top note is D flat. Let's exchange those. Okay. Next inversion, bottom note is G, top note is E. Let's exchange those. Next inversion, bottom note is B flat, top note is G. Exchange them. And then finally, bottom note is D flat, top note is B flat, and we'll exchange those. All right, now let's put those together into our F6 diminished scale of chords. So remember, that's going to alternate inversions of F6 and E diminished. Next inversion of F6, E diminished, F6, E diminished, F6, E diminished, and then we're back to F6. Okay, let's play that scale of chords again, but this time after we play each close position chord, we'll convert it to drop 2. So we're going to take the C and drop it. And then on this diminished chord, we're going to take our D flat and drop it. And then on this 6th chord, we'll take our D and move it down. On this diminished, we're going to take our E and move it down. Okay, on this 6th, we'll take our F down. On this diminished, we'll take our G down an octave. On this 6th, we'll take the A down. On this diminished, take the B flat down. And then we're back to the 6th that we started on, so we'll take the C down again. Let's try and play that without me talking over it. Now let's play the whole scale of chords in drop 2 without starting from a close position chord. Now let's try playing each chord as a short chord and then exchanging the top and bottom voices to make it a long chord. A similar sound, using all drop 2s, would be to start on one inversion of a 6th chord, jump up to the next inversion of the 6th chord, then come down to the diminished, up to the next inversion of the diminished, and then continue like that through the scale. Down to the 6th, up an inversion, down to the diminished, up an inversion, down to the 6th, up an inversion, down to the diminished, up an inversion, down to the 6th, up an inversion, down to the diminished, up an inversion, down to the 6th, up an inversion, down to the diminished, up an inversion, and then we end on the 6th, an octave above where we started. Let me play that again without talking over it. Okay, let's modify that slightly. So now we're still going to start on a 6th and jump up an inversion, but now instead of going down to the diminished, we're going to go up to the diminished and down an inversion before we move up to the next 6th. Up an inversion, up to the diminished, down an inversion, up to 6, up an inversion, up to diminished, down an inversion, up to 6, up an inversion, up to diminished, down an inversion, up to 6, up an inversion, up to diminished, down an inversion, and then we end at 6, where we started. Let me play that again without talking over it. What if we alternated those two patterns? So we still start on the 6th chord, jump up an inversion, then let's come down to the diminished, up an inversion, down to 6, up an inversion, and now we're going to go up to the diminished this time, and down an inversion. And then repeat that whole pattern. 6th, up an inversion, down to diminished, up an inversion, 6th, up an inversion, up to diminished, down an inversion, up to 6th. Let me play that again. Let's reverse that pattern. Now we'll start on the 6th, go up an inversion, up to diminished, down an inversion, up to 6th, up an inversion, down to diminished, and up an inversion. Then repeat that whole same pattern. 6th, up an inversion, up to diminished, down an inversion, up to 6th, up an inversion, down to diminished, up an inversion, down to 6th. Let me play all of that again. How about some of those same ideas down the scale? So let's start at the top of the scale on a 6th chord, jump down an inversion, and then up to the diminished, down an inversion, up to 6th, down an inversion, up to diminished, and down, up to 6th, and down, up to diminished, and down, up to 6th, and down, up to diminished, and down, and then we end on our 6th chord again. So let me play that again. Okay, let's reverse the order of that. So we start on the 6th chord, jump down an inversion, then down to diminished, and up an inversion. down to 6th, down an inversion, down to diminished, and up, down to 6th, down to diminished, and up, down to 6th, and down to diminished, and up, and then down to 6th. Let's combine those. Start on the 6th, down an inversion, up to diminished, down an inversion, up to 6th, down an inversion, and then this time down to diminished, and up an inversion. And repeat that whole pattern. Down to 6th, down an inversion, up to diminished, down an inversion, up to 6th, down an inversion, down to diminished, up an inversion, and down to 6th. Let's try reversing those. So we'll start on a 6th again, down an inversion, and then down to the diminished, and up an inversion. Down to 6th, down an inversion, and this time up to the diminished, and down an inversion. And we'll repeat that whole pattern. 6th, down an inversion, down to diminished, up an inversion, down to 6th, down an inversion, up to diminished, down an inversion, and end on 6th. Don't forget, we've got to play all these same things in minor 6th diminished. So let's turn this into F minor 6th. And then we're going to use that same diminished. F minor 6th, same diminished, minor 6th, diminished, minor 6th, diminished, and then we're back to our minor 6th. Let's play the close position, and then drop 2. Diminished, and then drop 2, minor 6th, drop 2, diminished, drop 2, minor 6th, drop 2, diminished, drop 2, minor 6th, drop 2, diminished, drop 2, and minor 6th, drop 2. How about just playing the drop 2? What about a short chord and then a long chord? So short chord, exchange the top and bottom voices. Short chord, exchange the top and bottom voices to make the long chord. Short chord, long chord. Short, long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short, long. Okay, then minor sixth, up an inversion, down to the diminished, up an inversion. And we'll play that pattern through the whole scale. Down to the diminished, up an inversion, down to minor sixth, up an inversion, diminished, up an inversion, minor sixth, up an inversion, diminished, up an inversion, minor sixth. Okay, reverse that. Minor sixth, up an inversion, but this time up to the diminished and down an inversion. Then repeat that. Minor sixth, up to the diminished and down. Minor sixth, up to the diminished and down. Minor sixth, up to the diminished and down. Minor sixth. Combine those. Start with the minor sixth, up an inversion, down to the diminished, up an inversion, minor sixth, up an inversion, and this time up to the diminished and down an inversion. Repeat that pattern. Minor sixth, up an inversion, down to the diminished, up an inversion, minor sixth, up an inversion, up to the diminished, down an inversion, minor sixth. Or reverse that. Minor sixth, up an inversion, up to the diminished, down an inversion, minor sixth, up an inversion, down to the diminished, and up an inversion. Repeat that pattern. Minor sixth, up to the diminished, and down, minor sixth, up, down to the diminished, and up, and then down to the minor sixth. And also down from the top of the scale. Minor sixth, down an inversion, up to the diminished, and down an inversion. Repeat that through the scale. Minor sixth, up to the diminished, minor sixth, up to the diminished, minor sixth, up to the diminished, minor sixth. Or we could reverse that and play the minor sixth, down an inversion, and then down to the diminished and up. And repeat that. Minor sixth, down to the diminished, up an inversion, minor sixth, down to the diminished, minor sixth, down to the diminished, minor 6th. Let's combine those. Minor 6th, down an inversion, up to the diminished, down an inversion, minor 6th, down an inversion, and this time down to the diminished and up an inversion. We'll repeat that pattern. Minor 6th, down an inversion, up to the diminished, down an inversion, minor 6th, down an inversion, down to the diminished, up an inversion, minor 6th. Or we could reverse that. Minor 6th, down an inversion. This time we'll go down to the diminished and up. Minor 6th, down an inversion. And now up to the diminished and down an inversion. And repeat that. Minor 6th, down to the diminished and up. Minor 6th, down, up to the diminished, and down, and then end on minor 6th. That's going to be about it for today. As always, make sure to practice all of this material in all 12 major and minor keys. I had planned on talking about borrowed notes as well, but I have to save that for a separate video. These drop 2 chords are really pretty and open sounding. Now that we've worked on them a little bit and you know what they sound like, you'll start hearing them all over the place on recordings by great musicians. I hope this video has helped you see the logic of them on the keyboard, which can be a little bit less than intuitive at first. Are there any other ways you like to look at and/or practice drop 2 chords? Let me know in the comments. Also, if you play guitar, these lay out quite comfortably and should really be your bread and butter voicings. Let me know if you're interested, and I'll do a video about how to play this stuff on the guitar, too. Thanks so much for watching. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you're interested in taking some Skype lessons, send me an email at billgrahammusic@gmail.com. I'll leave a link in the description. If you like what I'm doing on the channel and you'd like to make a donation, you can do that via PayPal using the same email address. My book, Chord Tone Improvisation, A Practical Method for Playing on Jazz Standards, Volume 1, Approaching Major and Minor Triads, is available on Amazon. I'll leave a link in the description. You can also buy a PDF version from my website, billgrahammusic.com. I'll leave a link for that in the description too. This book goes into great detail with many examples of all sorts of different 1, 2, and 3-note approaches you can use to target chord tones. If you want to know more about that, you can check out a video I did about it. I'll leave a link for that in the description as well. As usual, if you have any questions about this video or about any musical topic, please leave them in the comments below. Until next time, take it easy.